Welcome live to Holt Fieldhouse on the campus of Carson-Newman University as we're ready for some more volleyball action here on the Eagle Sports Network. Ryan Wilkes with you tonight as the Carson-Newman Eagles host the UVA Wise Cavaliers. So Carson-Newman coming to this one, 3 straight losses. Looking to get back in the win column with a win tonight. It will be Ashley Tiernan's 100th career win, not only at Carson-Newman but in her volleyball coaching career as a whole. So a lot at stake for Carson-Newman tonight. UVA Wise comes into this one 9-9, 2-8 in the SAC. They're having a much improved season to last year, 6-18, 2-17 in the SAC. So already lots of improvement for UVA Wise. We're looking to come in tonight and pull off a bit of an upset. Carson-Newman 10-14 on the season, 7-5 overall in the SAC. Carson-Newman looking back in the win column after I mentioned 3 straight losses. First coming at Lenore-Rhine, a 3-0 loss. Then at Augusta and Greenwood, South Carolina, 3-1. Then against Lander, a sweep for Lander, 3-0. Carson-Newman dropped that one. So the Eagles looking to get back in the win column tonight. Let's go over some starting lineups. First for the UVA Wise Cavaliers, number 2 Abigail Curtis. Number 8 Morgan Blankenship. Number 12 Lauren Montes. Number 15 Kaylee Scarfs. Number 17, Lily Gutierrez. Number 18, Serena Peterson. And number 5, the libero, Cameron Livingston. For Carson-Newman, number 3, Blair Cherry. Number 5, Julia Wheeler. Number 6, McKenna Hall. Number 11, Emma Grace Cobb. Number 21, Taylor Kieran. And number 24, Madison Fisher getting the start tonight for Carson-Newman. At libero, number 15, Bennett McCombs. So we're getting ready to go tonight. Carson-Newman and UVA Wise here from Holt Fieldhouse. Mentioned UVA Wise coming in 9-9 on the season. Already more wins this year than they had last year, going 6-18. So good job by head coach Alyssa Hanley in her second season. Last year, she led the UVA Wise program to 6 wins, the most since 2016. So Alyssa Hanley already making her footprint on this UVA Wise volleyball program, and they look to continue that tonight. So we're getting ready to roll here from Holt Fieldhouse. Beautiful afternoon outside, but we're inside here at Holt on the hardwoods for some SAC volleyball action. Carson-Newman looking again to get back in the win column after a tough road stretch. The road trips have not been overly friendly to Carson-Newman this season, but here at Holt Fieldhouse, Carson-Newman only 1 loss, a 5-set loss to a ranked Wingate team. So overall, Carson-Newman has had a lot of success here at home as fans continue to trickle in. Been a busy week so far here on Mossy Creek. Soccer yesterday, women's soccer took on Columbus State. That was a 3-0 loss for the women, but competitive match overall. And tomorrow, a rescheduling of the match against Anderson that was supposed to occur over a month ago. But weather came through the area and pushed it to tomorrow with 12 minutes left to go in the first half. Anderson and Carson-Newman will resume play. Anderson leads 1-0. So we're ready to go here from Holt Fieldhouse. Back to serve is Abigail Curtis. She puts this one into the net, a service error to kick off the night for UVA Wise, and Carson-Newman leads 1-0. McKenna Hall checks out quickly. Skylar Weaver checks in. There'll be more Madison Fisher back to serve for the Eagles. 1-0 Carson-Newman off the service error by Abigail Curtis. As Fisher tees it up. This one set up at the net. Big swing, far sideline, and is down off the hand of Serena Peterson. Point UVA Wise. Another sub coming in. It's Lauren Montes who checks in for Cameron Livingston. As it'll be Serena Peterson fresh off the kill going back to serve. Here's a serve from Peterson. Combs receives, Cherry sets up. Wheeler, big swing, puts it down past Peterson. Point Eagles. Julia Wheeler gets Carson-Newman the kill to make it 2-1 Eagles. Cameron Bates checks in. Emma Grace Cobb checks out. As Ben McCombs checks out as well. Here's the serve from Bates. This one bumped. Big swing. A dig by Cherry. Now Wheeler. Nice dig by Curtis, set up far side by Scarce. Now it's put down on the block by Cobb and Weaver. Point Carson-Newman. Good start for the Eagles, leading 3-1. Spadis will go back and serve. 3-1 your score in the early going as Spadis tees it up. Curtis receives. Now it's pushed towards the net. This one blocked again by Wheeler and Cobb. Point Carson-Newman. The attack by Blankenship. Emma Grace Cobb and Wheeler met it at the top and put it down. 4-1 Eagles on a 3-0 scoring run. Spadis with the serve once again. Received by Curtis, back row. Gutierrez sets it up. Big swing by Morgan Blankenship, and it's down. Point for UVA Wise. Couple subs coming in for the Cavaliers. It's Riley Brandon as well as Piper Suddeth. Suddeth will go back to serve. 4-2, Carson-Newman out in front as this serve goes past the back line. Point Carson-Newman. 2 service errors in the early going for the Cavaliers, and Carson-Newman gets a serve right back. This UVA Wise team continues to improve season by season under Alyssa Hanley. Mentioned last year, 6 wins and now 9 on the season. As Wheeler with the serve. Cobb, big swing, finds herself wide open at the top of the net and puts it down. A kill for Emma Grace Cobb. Point Carson-Newman. First kill of the night for Cobb. Did so with authority. She just found that one hanging atop the net. Wheeler with the serve, a short one as it's set up. Now poked over, and it's Wheeler. Now back to Fisher, and it goes out of bounds. Point UVA Wise. Bit of an awkward play there for Carson-Newman. As it'll be Morgan Blevins to check in for Curtis. Back to serve is Kaylee Scarce. 6-3, Carson-Newman doubling up UVA Wise in the early going. Scarce with the serve. McCombs receives. Now Cherry far side Weaver. Goes off the hands of the middle blockers. Now Livingston towards the net. Brandon with the attack. Now Cherry with the dump. And it goes far sideline and in. Point Carson-Newman. Blair Cherry has been so good this season at those dumps. Not always just going straight over. That time she kind of went no look behind her head. And gets the kill. 7-3 Eagles. McKenna Hall will serve for Carson-Newman. This one's set up near side. Big swing by Brandon. Now Cherry sets up Cobb, an awkward jump, and it goes down off the error by Carson-Newman. Looks like Cherry and Cobb just not quite on the same page right there. UVA Wise back within 3. It's 7-4. Livingston will serve for the Cavaliers. As this one goes off the hands of Wheeler, McCombs giving chase. Now Hall will have to try and get it over, as she does with the free ball. Now big swing by Serena Peterson, and is down. Point UVA Wise. So the Cavaliers clawing their way back into this set. In the early going, 7-5. Carson-Newman still out in front. Here's a serve from Livingston. Cherry sets up near side. Bates with a chance at it. Now Cherry near the net. Wheeler able to retrieve it. Carson-Newman kind of scrambling here. As it's far side now, Blevins. Dig by Fisher. Far side Wheeler. Now it's Brandon. Gets it over the hands of the middle blockers, but Hall right there. Wheeler big swing, and she's blocked. That's Serena Peterson at the net, setting the Julia Wheeler attack right back where it came from. Point UVA Wise. So now the Cavaliers within 1 after Carson-Newman's been in pretty steady control here early on. Here's the serve again from Livingston. Cherry sets up Cobb off the hands of the middle blockers. Now far side for Blevins. Nice dig by Hall in the back row, and now it's towards Fisher, who just puts it in the net. Point UVA Wise. We're all tied up at 7. Great dig on the back row by Hall. Fisher a little bit further away from the net than she would have liked. Couldn't quite get it over. So 7 apiece as Livingston will go back and serve once again. Cherry sets up Cobb. She's blocked again by Peterson, but kept alive. Now Fisher. A dig by Scarce. Now a big swing, back line. And it's tipped by Carson-Newman, point UVA wise. The Cavaliers out in front now, 8-7. Bit of a run here for the Cavaliers, leading by 1. Serve from Livingston. Cherry towards Fisher. Off the hands of Peterson, the dig by Livingston. Now Brandon gets it over for the Cavaliers, near side Fisher. Livingston far side for Blevins. Hall got a hand on it, but it goes down. A kill for Morgan Blevins, and now UVA Wise out in front by 2. 9-7 your score as UVA Wise on a bit of a scoring run here to take the lead, their first lead of the match. 9-7, UVA Wise out in front, but Livingston puts this one right into the net. Third service error of the night for UVA Wise here in the first set. 9-8 your score as Kieran checks in. Here's a serve from McCombs. This one poked over towards Blevins. Cherry sets out Fisher. Big swing. She's blocked for the moment, but kept alive. Now right back to Fisher, and she puts it down. That's Taylor Kieran right in the middle of the net with the kill. All tied up again at 9-9. McCombs will serve once again for Carson-Newman. Evening this one back up at 9 after a bit of a run from the Cavaliers. This one will go past the back line. A service error for Bennett McCombs and the Eagles. Point UVA Wise. Couple subs coming in. Morgan Blankenship checks back in, as well as Lily Gutierrez, as Gutierrez will go back to serve. Wise out in front by 1, 10-9. As I mentioned, UVA Wise continues to be more and more competitive within the South Atlantic Conference. 9-9 on the season, 2-8 in conference, is set up perfectly over the top of the net for Serena Peterson, and she puts it down, her third kill of the night. Now UVA Wise up by 2. That one received a little too hard off the hands of Fisher, and right up to Peterson for the kill. As a serve by Gutierrez goes past the back line. Another service error for the Cavaliers, their 4th on the night. It's kind of been story so far for UVA Wise in terms of giving the Eagles points here. As that's 4 points the Eagles have gotten off of the serve by the Cavaliers. That's Blair Cherry will serve for Carson-Newman. 11-10, the Eagles trail. Gutierrez sets up near side Peterson. McCombs back row dig. Now Cherry finds Wheeler. And she puts it right into the net, point UVA Wise. Wheeler looked to go cross court right there and couldn't quite do it as Curtis checks back in. Peterson, I believe, checks out. Excuse me, that's Blevins that checks out. Curtis will go back to serve for UVA Wise. 12-10 the score, Cavaliers out in front. Cherry sets up Kieran, big swing, puts it down, the outstretched hands of Abigail Curtis. Point Carson-Newman. Skylar Weaver back in for McKenna Hall as Carson-Newman back within 1. Back and forth we go here in this first set. As Morgan Fisher will serve for Carson-Newman. This one goes past the back line. A service error for Carson-Newman. 6 service errors between the two sides. 4 for the Cavaliers, 2 for the Eagles. As UVA Wise goes back out in front by 2. Serena Peterson will go serve, leading the Cavaliers in kills so far with 3. As Wheeler pokes it over, Peterson with the dig. Gutierrez sets up near side for Blankenship. Now Cherry to Wheeler. And a violation called on the Cavaliers, point Carson-Newman. Here comes Cobb and Batis checking in for McCombs and Kieran. As Batis will go back to serve. So far, Julia Wheeler leads Carson-Newman with 2 kills. Serena Peterson with 3 leads all scorers in the Cavaliers tonight. Serve from Bates, received by Curtis. Now Gutierrez sets up Blankenship. Nice dig by Cherry. Fisher to Wheeler. Goes back corner and it finds the hardwood. Point Carson-Newman. Mentioned Julia Wheeler wanted to go cross court a couple of points ago. Couldn't quite get it. That time she does. And she puts it perfectly in the corner past the back row of Cavaliers. All tied up back at 13 as Bates will retreat to serve again. Gutierrez sets up right in the middle for Scarce. Now Bates bumps it over. And it's called a carry on Blankenship. Point Carson-Newman, the Eagles go back out in front. A little bit of dispute from Hanley and the UVA Wise bench. But nonetheless, Point Eagles back out in front by 1. Bates will serve for Carson-Newman. Curtis receives. Gutierrez sets up. Big swing by Kaylee Scarce, and it's down. Point UVA Wise. Excuse me, now it's 14-13 Wise. Carson-Newman had just tied it up at 13, and now the Cavaliers back out in front. Piper Sudduth checks back in. And she'll serve. 14-13 Cavaliers out in front. As Sherry bumps it towards the net for Wheeler. Hits off the hands of the middle blockers, kept alive by Wise. Now near side to Brandon, and it goes off the rod. Point Carson-Newman. Tightly contested first set here at Holt Fieldhouse, 14 all, as it'll be Julia Wheeler to serve for the Eagles. Here's a serve from Wheeler. This one set up far side. Big swing and put down on the back row by Kaylee Scarce. 2 kills now for Scarce as she climbs the stat sheet. As Morgan Blevins checks back in, it'll be Scarce going back to serve. Good fight from UVA Wise. Fell behind a little bit early in this first set, but has climbed back in it and now leads by 1. Cobb, awkward set towards the net for Fisher. She'll just have to dump it over. Now far side. And now the dump by Cherry, kept alive by Livingston. Near side, it's Brandon. She's blocked by Cobb and Weaver. Point Carson-Newman. Meeting them at the top of the net was Cobb and Weaver. As Weaver checks out, Fisher back in for, Hall back in for Carson-Newman. As she will serve, all tied up at 15 here in the first set. Serve from Hall, back row to Scarce. Now set up far side Blevins. Hall with the dig. Cherry sets up Cobb. She'll just tip it over, but kept alive by Brandon. Far side, it's Blevins. Goes off the hands of the middle blocker, and now poked over by Brandon. Good awareness by Carson-Newman. Fisher, Scarce with the back row dig. Now Brandon again. She's blocked for the moment. Far side for Blevins. Cherry to Fisher. It's blocked, but goes past the back line. Point Carson-Newman. Both teams just kind of waiting in anticipation right there to see if that was going to catch the back line. It goes just beyond it, as Carson-Newman retakes the 1-point lead. Very much a back and forth first set. Carson-Newman led out in front for a little while, but then UVA Wise retook the lead, and now Carson-Newman back out in front. Far side Blevins. Cherry sets up Fisher. Kept alive for a moment. UVA Wise, nice job to recover. Now it's Livingston. Cherry to Cobb, and a big swing pushes it past the back line. Point UVA Wise. Bit of a scramble drill for Wise right there, but they were able to keep it alive and eventually get the point to retie it at 16. It's Livingston to serve once again. Cherry sets up near the net for Cobb. Big swing and puts it down. Point Eagles. Emma Grace Cobb putting it right where she wants it. Able to get the kill. She'll check out. Taylor Kieran and McKenna Hall back in for Carson-Newman. Combs will go back to serve for Carson-Newman, leading by 1, 17-16. This one dumped over the net. Nice dig by Wheeler to keep it alive. Now Fisher, a dig by Livingston. Set up far side, big swing, going for the far sideline, the near sideline. Was Morgan Blevins, and it goes right past it. Point Carson-Newman. There'll be a timeout for UVA Wise and Alyssa Hanley as Carson-Newman retakes a 2-point lead. We'll be right back here on the Eagle Sports Network. Back at Holt Fieldhouse, Carson-Newman out in front by 2, 18-16, right here on the Eagle Sports Network. Ryan Wilkes with you, taking through all the action tonight on the hardwood as Carson-Newman and Bennett McCombs will have the serve for the Eagles. Back row Livingston, set up far side for Blevins, and she'll put it down on the far sideline. Point UVA Wise. Good response to the timeout by the Cavaliers as Gutierrez checks back in, as well as Blankenship. 18-17 the score, and what's been a very tightly contested first set here at Holt Fieldhouse. A much improved UVA Wise team, even from a year ago where they got the most wins in program within the program since 2016, as this one's set up for Kieran, and she puts it down. Point Carson-Newman. Cherry will go back to serve for the Eagles. We'll talk a little bit more about the Cavaliers and their improvement here later in the night. As Carson-Newman holds a 2-point lead, 19-17, as Cherry's serve goes past the back line. Point Cavaliers. Curtis checks back in for Morgan Blevins. As we take a look at some of the sack standings, Carson-Newman sits in 5th right now behind in-state rival Tusculum. As Curtis tees up the serve, and this one soars past the back line. Point Carson-Newman. Another service error for UVA Wise. Pretty solid first set for the Cavaliers, but if you're Alyssa Hanley, something you're looking at is certainly those service errors. 5 on the night. As Carson-Newman has had some as well with 3. As Weaver checks in, and right on cue, a service error for Carson-Newman and Madison Fisher. Point UVA Wise, 20-19, as this one continues to be tight as we go down the stretch here in the first set. Serena Peterson with the serve, and another service error on UVA Wise. 3 consecutive service errors, 2 for the Cavaliers, 1 for Carson-Newman. As Betis checks back in, 21-19, Eagles out in front. Betis will serve for Carson-Newman. This one finds the hardwood, but it's Gutierrez who dumps it over near the net. Point UVA Wise. McCombs will check back in, and Trinity Hayfie checks in for the first time tonight. She'll grab Madison Fisher. 21-20 your score. Carson-Newman still out in front. It's been a very competitive first set. Talked a lot about UVA Wise and its steady improvement under second-year head coach Alyssa Hanley. Here's the serve from Suddeth. Cherry towards the net for Wheeler. Big swing. It goes off the hands of Cameron Livingston. Point Carson-Newman. Julia Wheeler has tried to go cross-court a lot tonight and find some success right there. And now Carson-Newman out in front by 2. Going to close out what's been a very competitive first set here at Holt Fieldhouse as Wheeler with the serve. goes off the hands of Gutierrez and down. Point Carson-Newman. First service ace of the night for either side, as it comes courtesy of Julia Wheeler, and that'll send us right into timeout. As Alyssa Hanley burns her second, Carson-Newman leads 23-20 on the other side here on the Eagle Sports Network. Welcome back to Holt Fieldhouse. Carson-Newman leads 23-20, looking to close out this first set. UVA Wise again showing some fight here tonight as they continue to improve under Alyssa Hanley this season. Looking at some of the standings, Anderson, Lenore, Ryan all tied up at the top at 12-1. Wingate has played a couple less games, so they're right behind them at 10-1. Tusculum not too far behind either at 10-3 in conference play. And a pretty steady fall off, but Carson-Newman still right there within the mix at 7-5. As Julia Wheeler will serve once again for Carson-Newman. 3-point lead for the Eagles. Sudduth sets up, big swing by Scarce, and it goes down off a couple hands of Eagles. Point UVA Wise. Big to get the serve back there, as Carson-Newman is looking to pull away at the end. UVA Wise still very much alive here in the first set. Blevins checks back in. Scarce goes back to serve. Hafey back row finds Cherry. Now far side for Weaver. She's blocked, kept alive by Hafey. Dumped over by Weaver. Now far side for Blevins. Cherry sets up for Hafey. She'll just have to dump the free ball over. And now near side, big swing for Brandon. Great dig by Hafey as McCombs retrieves. And now Weaver. Set up for Blevins. Back row dig again for McCombs. Cherry keeps it alive. And now Wheeler. This one set up again for Blevins far side. This time she finds some space near the back row. Off the hands of Bennett McCombs. Point UVA Wise. Maybe the longest rally we've seen tonight. Both teams with some great defensive plays on the digs. But UVA Wise able to get the better of Carson-Newman right there. Scarce with the serve again. Now sets up Cobb, and it's down off the hands of the middle blockers. Point Carson-Newman. Set point up coming for the Eagles in what's been a very hard fought first set, as McKenna Hall and Madison Fisher check back in. McKenna Hall will go back to serve. 24-22, Carson-Newman looking to close out this first set. Bit of a stoppage in play here as both officials get ready to go. And Hall ready to serve the set point. 24-22 Eagles. So it's Hall with the serve for Carson-Newman. Sudduth sets up far side. Blevins block at the net, and it goes out of bounds off the hands of the middle blockers for Carson-Newman, and point UVA Wise. Still set point for the Eagles, but the serve goes back to the Cavaliers as Cameron Livingston will serve. 24-23, Carson-Newman leads. And what has been pretty much a toss-up first set between these two sides. Cherry bumps it towards Fisher. Fisher gets it over, tipped around. Livingston keeps it alive. Now Scarce bumps the free ball over. Cherry sets up Cobb. Big swing, and it goes down near sideline. Point Carson-Newman. The set goes to Carson-Newman, but not without a great fight from UVA Wise. And we'll take a quick break. Be right back. Carson-Newman leads in sets 1-0 right here on the Eagle Sports Network. Welcome back to Holt Fieldhouse. Carson-Newman leads 1-0 after the first set. A tightly contested first set, 25-23. 7 ties, 2 lead changes for the two sides as it went back and forth there in that first set. Carson-Newman eventually comes out in front and gets the first set win. As UVA Wise and Carson-Newman back out on the court here at Holt Fieldhouse. Decent crowd continuing to trickle in. Lots of athletes in attendance tonight as we get prepared for a big homecoming weekend. Carson-Newman football welcomes in Emory and Henry on Saturday at 3 o'clock, and then 2 soccer matches against Limestone to round out what should be a great weekend here at Mossy Creek. Hopefully some good weather, starting to get that fall weather as I mentioned earlier. Nice and cozy inside Holt Fieldhouse as Blair Cherry will serve for Carson-Newman. Goes back row for Gutierrez. Now set up, big swing by Scarce. Now Wheeler far side. Great dig by Curtis on the back row. Now back towards Scarce, who pokes it over, kept alive by Carson-Newman. And now far side Wheeler. Gutierrez sets up far side. UVA gets it over. Now big swing past the back line. It goes off the hands of Taylor Adams, who checks in for the first time tonight. Have not seen much of Taylor Adams here in tonight's action as UVA Wise takes the 1-0 lead. It'll be Peterson back to serve for UVA Wise. As Hall receives on the back row, Cherry sets up Wheeler, big swing and puts it down. Point Carson-Newman. 5th kill for Wheeler, now tied for the lead amongst all scorers. As Weaver checks back in, Hall checks out. 1-1 your score. As it'll be Adams back to serve for Carson-Newman. Pretty even first set between the two sides. Both had quite a few service errors as Livingston back row pokes it towards Scarce. And now Cherry sets up Kieran, big swing, puts it down off the hands of Curtis. Point Carson-Newman. 2-1 your score. 2 big kills by Carson-Newman, 1 by Julia Wheeler and 1 by Taylor Kieran. As it'll be Adams back to serve once again. This one goes to the net, point UVA Wise. 2 subs coming in. It's Riley Brandon checking back in, as well as Piper Suddeth. So Suddeth will serve for the Cavaliers. 2-2 tie here early in set number 2. Carson-Newman takes the first set 25-23, but if it's any indication, UVA Wise is going to fight through tonight's match against Carson-Newman. As Wheeler receives the serve, awkwardly has to bump it over. Now far side for Brandon. Big swing goes past the near sideline. Point Carson-Newman. Cobb and Betas check back in. Kieran and McCombs check out as it'll be Betas back to serve. 3-2. Carson-Newman out in front here early in the second set. Here's a serve from Betas, back row. Set up by Summers. Big swing by Brandon. Goes off the hands of the middle blockers and down. Point UVA Wise. Now it's Morgan Blevins checking in. Trinity Hayfie checks back in for Carson-Newman. Here's a serve from Scarce. Goes off the hands of McCombs and down. Service ace for UVA Wise. First of the night. The serve's been a bit of a struggle for the Cavaliers here in this one, but that time it was not. The service ace by Kaylee Scarce. Here's the next serve. Goes past the back line. Right on cue. Mentioned that UVA Wise had struggled a little bit with the serve, and that time another service error, the 7th of the night for the Cavaliers. 4-4 your score between UVA Wise and Carson-Newman as Wheeler tees up the serve. Summers sets up far side for Brandon. Cherry to Cobb. Big swing off the hands of the middle blockers now towards Wheeler, who just dumps over the free ball. Now set up for Blevins as McCombs able to get the dig back row. Now Weaver goes off the hands of a couple Cavaliers and down. Point Carson-Newman. Skylar Weaver gets a kill, her first of the night and her 5th attack, as Carson-Newman retakes the 1-point lead. Here's a serve from Wheeler. Sudduth sets up, big swing. And now down off the swing by Lauren Montes. So it's Serena Peterson to check back in, 5 apiece here early in the second set as it's Livingston going back to serve. Cherry sets up near side for Weaver, pokes over the outstretched hands of Blevins and Peterson. Now right back to Blevins, goes down off the hands of Cobb and Cherry. Point UVA Wise. UVA Wise has tried a little bit more here in the second set to get it over those blockers. Carson-Newman had 3.5 blocks in the first set. None to speak of here in the second so far. As Livingston will serve. McCombs receives. Cherry sets up Cobb and puts it down at the peak of her jump right in front of Livingston. Point Carson-Newman. Hall checks back in as well as Adams for Weaver and Hafey as we're tied up at 6. Carson-Newman and UVA Wise all knotted up at 16 kills apiece. Mentioned it's been about as even as it gets here so far tonight. Carson-Newman giving the slight edge in set number 1. As Blevins bumps it towards Brandon. Brandon once again pokes it over the outstretched arms of Adams and Cobb. Now Taylor Adams is blocked at the net by Peterson and Brandon. Point UVA Wise. Gutierrez checks back in as well as Blankenship. As Gutierrez will go back and serve. 7-6, Cavaliers out in front early in the second set. Combs receives. Cherry sets up Cobb and she puts in the net. Point UVA Wise. 8-6 your score. As Gutierrez will serve once again. Back row McCombs. Cherry sets up Adams. Big swing, puts it down. Kill for Taylor Adams. Point Carson-Newman. Kieran comes back in for Bates. As Taylor Adams gets the kill. Didn't see any action there in the first set. Here in set number 2, she's coming in and making an impact. McCombs will serve for Carson-Newman. Gutierrez sets up for Scarce. Cherry sets up Kieran, just pokes it over. Great dig by Livingston. As now it goes towards Blankenship. Cherry with the dump. Livingston with the dig. Now far side. Blankenship again is blocked by Adams, but kept alive by the Cavaliers, and Livingston will dump over the free ball. Now Kieran, she's blocked and it goes down off the hands of Blevins and Peterson. Point Cavaliers. Curtis comes back in as UVA Wise has made its presence known at the net here in the second set. 9-7 your score. As Curtis will go back and serve. Cherry sets up. Kieran, big swing, puts it down past Curtis. Point Carson-Newman. The kill by Kieran, her 5th on the night, is now there's 3 Eagles. Tied with 5 kills apiece. Julia Wheeler, Emma Grace Cobb, and now Taylor Kieran. Here's Blair Cherry to serve. Gutierrez sets up, far side. Blankenship tipped around and scored. Off the swing by Morgan Blankenship. Point Cavaliers. Montes checks back in. It'll be Peterson going back to serve. Nice night so far from Serena Peterson. She has 3 blocks along with 3 kills in 4 attacks. As Peterson now serves. Cherry sets up Wheeler right in front of the net. It's blocked again and down. That time Montes and Scarce combine for the block. And UVA Wise now out in front by 3. As I mentioned, UVA Wise has made its presence known at the net here in this second set, now with 4 blocks on the night. As Peterson serves again. Cherry sets up Kieran. She's blocked for the moment, but kept alive by Carson-Newman. Now near side Adams, and she'll put it down past Curtis. Point Carson-Newman. Second kill for Taylor Adams, who has seen limited action tonight. Coming in, again, making an impact here in the second set as Weaver checks back in for Hall. Here's a serve from Taylor Adams. This one goes past the back line, point UVA Wise. So now 13 service errors between the two sides as Adams checks out, Hayfie checks back in. Two subs coming in, it's Sudduth and Brandon. As it's 12-9 Wise. Sudduth will go back and serve. Back row for Wheeler. Cherry sets up far side. Weaver. Livingston with the dig. Now Brandon far side. Cherry to Weaver. Big swing past the back row. Extension of Livingston. Point Carson-Newman. Here comes Cobb and Bates back in. Carson-Newman back within two. UVA Wise has controlled most of this second set, but Carson-Newman still right there. Kind of the other way around in the first set. Carson-Newman was out in front for a little while, and UVA Wise made a push as Bates will serve for the Eagles. Sudduth towards the net for Scarce. Bates back row dig. Cherry sets up towards Weaver, pokes it over the hands of Scarce and Montes. Now Scarce with a big swing, and she'll put it down. Point Cavaliers. Blevins checks in for Curtis. As the Cavaliers back in front, 13-10. Scarce will serve for UVA Wise. Awkward reception by Hayfie, but now towards the net for Wheeler. Sudduth sets up Scarce, pokes it over the hands of Cobb. Now Cherry to Cobb, and great dig right there for the moment, but now tipped around, point Carson-Newman. A diving dig by Sudduth. But the Cavaliers were not able to get it back over. Now Carson-Newman with the point. Julia Wheeler will get the serve. Here's a serve from Wheeler. Sudduth sets up near side for Blevins. Hayfie with the back row dig. Now Cherry far side Weaver. Sudduth sets up Brandon. Trinity Hayfie with another great dig. Now Cherry with the dump and finds some open space right in front of the Cavaliers bench. Point Carson-Newman. There, Cherry with the kill, her second on the night. As Wheeler will go back to serve again. Carson-Newman now within one. Here's a serve from Wheeler. Goes off the hands of Blevins, but she's able to keep it alive. Now Cherry for Wheeler. Livingston, far side Brandon. She's blocked, tipped around and down. Block for Cobb and Weaver. Point Carson-Newman, and we're all tied up at 13. Carson-Newman getting its first block of this second set as UVA Wise has done a good job going around the blockers, but couldn't do so that time. Sudduth sets up Brandon. She's blocked again, but kept alive this time. Near side Blevins. Cherry sets up Cobb. She'll push it past the back line. Actually, it's tipped by the Cavaliers. Point Carson-Newman. Montes does not agree, but nonetheless, point Eagles. A kill for Emma Grace Cobb. As Carson-Newman now leads by one. Seems like the Eagles have played from behind most of this second set. Now out in front by one as Wheeler gets the serve over. Sudduth sets up Blevins, goes in the body of Hayfie. Cherry keeps alive near side. Now Cobb puts it down and scores. Looks like Emma Grace Cobb was just trying to get that one over, but UVA Wise couldn't quite get to it. And now Alyssa Hanley needs a timeout. Carson-Newman out in front, 15-13 on the other side here on the Eagle Sports Network. Back at Holt Fieldhouse, Carson-Newman leads 15-13 after the kill by Emma Grace Cobb sent us into break. Here on the Eagle Sports Network, Carson-Newman on a 5-0 scoring run to retake the lead after trailing 13-10. Julia Wheeler will go back and serve once again. Eagles in front by 2. Here's the serve from Wheeler. Sudduth sets up in front of the net for Brandon, who dumps it over. Now McCombs towards Weaver, far side. Livingston bumps it towards Blevins. She's blocked and it's down. Point Carson-Newman. Cherry and Cobb with the kill, as Carson-Newman now in front by 3. For the first half of this set, UVA Wise was able to go away from the blockers of Cobb and Cherry, but to no avail right there, as here's a serve from Wheeler. Sudduth sets up Blevins. Big swing off the hands of Hafey and score. Much needed point for UVA Wise to break the 6-0 scoring run by Carson-Newman. As Serena Peterson checks back in, Livingston will go back to serve. Much needed run for Carson-Newman to get back out in front. In a set that was controlled, not dominated by UVA Wise, but certainly Cavaliers had controlled it for the most part. As Cherry sets up Weaver off the hands of Blevins and Peterson and down. Point Carson-Newman. Here comes Hall and Adams back in, as Hafey and Weaver check out. McKenna Hall will serve for Carson-Newman. Eagles lead by 3. So it's been a 7-1 scoring run for Carson-Newman after trailing by 3. As Hall with the serve. Sudduth sets up near side for Blevins. Cherry, far side Wheeler, big swing, but past the back line. Point UVA Wise. Here comes Gutierrez and Blankenship back in. Sudduth and Brandon check out. 17-15, Carson-Newman still out in front as Gutierrez will go serve. So far, leading all scorers is Emma Grace Cobb with 8 kills. Morgan Blevins right behind her for UVA Wise with 7. As Gutierrez serves, goes off the hands awkwardly of Wheeler, but kept alive by Cherry. Now Gutierrez will dump and it's down past the front row of Carson-Newman Eagles. Point UVA Wise. Right when it looked like Carson-Newman maybe was going to start pulling away with his second set, UVA Wise has battled back into it, much thanks to a well-timed called timeout by Alyssa Hanley. As Cherry towards Hall. Now it's down off the hands of Gutierrez. A kill from McKenna Hall. Point Carson-Newman. Bates checks out. Kieran back in. As McCombs will go back and serve. Carson-Newman leads 18-16. McKenna Hall, mostly been a service guru for the Eagles this season, gets a kill. Let's put Carson-Newman back in front by 2 as here's a serve from Bennett McCombs. Gutierrez sets up Blankenship, goes off the top of her fingertips. As now far side for Adams, tipped around and scored. Off the hands of Blankenship, who was going for the block. Went off her hands, basically on the palm, and it goes down. Point Carson-Newman. 19-16, Eagles back in front by 3. Second time they've had a 3-point lead, but their biggest lead of the set. As McCombs serves, Gutierrez far side, now towards Blevins. Blevins off the hands of Cherry and Hall and down. 8th kill for Blevins. And UVA Wise gets the serve back. Blevins checks out, back in is Curtis. As Wise back within 2, 19-17 your score. Here's the serve from Curtis. Cherry sets up far side. Adams, big swing and tipped and score. That one goes right off the hands of UVA Wise. Taylor Adams gets the kill. As I mentioned, first time we saw Taylor Adams tonight was to start the second set. She certainly made her presence felt. 4 kills here in set number 2. Gutierrez sets up near side, Scarce, and she puts it down and scores. Kaylee Scarce playing with energy tonight, as you see out there on the court. UVA Wise back within 2. It's 20-18. Serena Peterson will go serve. Cherry sets up near side Adams. Big swing, and it's tipped down and scored. Taylor Adams' 5th kill as she'll check out. Trinity Hafey back in. As Hafey will go serve, Weaver will check in as well for McKenna Hall. As I mentioned earlier, head coach Ashley Tiernan looking for her 100th career win overall. Not just here at Carson-Newman in her volleyball coaching career as a whole, as Trinity Hafey tees up the serve. Gutierrez sets up Scarce. Wheeler with the dig. Now Cherry sets up near side for Weaver. Great dig by Gutierrez on the backside. Now a dump attempt by Scarce, and it goes into the net. Point Carson-Newman. Largest lead of the set for the Eagles sits at 4. 22-18. Alyssa Hanley needs a timeout, as Carson-Newman leads 22-18 on the other side here on the Eagle Sports Network. Welcome back to Old Fieldhouse. Carson-Newman out in front, 22-18, looking to close out this second set. Carson-Newman does win the set. It'll be 2-0 on the score sheet, but this match has been nothing but competitive here tonight at Holt Fieldhouse. As a couple more fans continue to trickle in. As I mentioned, it's a busy week here in Mossy Creek. Women's soccer team competed yesterday. We'll have football on Saturday and soccer tomorrow, wrapping up a match with Anderson. As here's the serve from Hafey. Gutierrez sets up far side for Blankenship. McCombs, far side of Wheeler, and she's blocked. The block by Montez, and Blankenship at the net gets UVA Wides the serve back in a crucial spot. Sudduth checks in, as well as Brandon. Gutierrez and Blankenship check out. Big time for UVA Wides to get the serve back right out of the timeout. As Sudduth will go back to serve. 22-19, Eagles out in front. Here's a serve from Sudduth. It's a short one, received by Wheeler. Now towards Weaver as Livingston keeps it alive. Now Scarce hits off the hands of Weaver and Kieran, and down. Point UVA Wides. 22-20 as UVA Wides draws closer. Alyssa Hanley showing some coaching prowess tonight. She's called some very well-timed timeouts, as she did right there, to get this UVA Wides crew regrouped, and now they're within 2 as Kieran with the attack. No dice, as it's kept alive by Carson-Newman. Wheeler will just have to bump it over. Sudduth sets up at the net. Big swing by Montez, kept alive by Carson-Newman. Now Weaver off the hands of Livingston, going to retrieve it is Sudduth, and now Scarce tries to get it over. It's right into the net. Point Carson-Newman. Sudduth had to go all the way past the back line to retrieve the free ball, and Scarce just couldn't get it over there, as Carson-Newman now within 2 points of taking a 2-0 set lead. Taylor Kieran with the serve. And this one goes off the hands of Scarce. Service ace for Taylor Kieran. Point Eagles. 24-20, Eagles out in front as Kieran will tee up set point for Carson-Newman. Here's a serve from Kieran. Sudduth sets up in the net for Brandon, and it goes past the back line. Point Carson-Newman. It looked like that one might have been tipped, but nonetheless, set goes to Carson-Newman. Bit of a close play near that back line nonetheless. It goes out of bounds. Point Carson-Newman. Set goes to the Eagles as Carson-Newman takes a 2-0 lead. We'll be right back with set number 3 on the other side here on the Eagle Sports Network. Welcome back to Holt Fieldhouse. Carson-Newman leads 2-0 after a 25-20 set 2 victory. But again, a very tightly contested second set. 7 ties again in that second set. 5 lead changes this time. So on the night, 14 tie scores between the 2 sets. 7 total lead changes. So Carson-Newman leads 2-0 as we're ready to go for set 3. Both teams out in the court, ready to roll. Starting to get dark outside here in Jefferson City, Tennessee. Thank you guys for joining me here on the Eagles Sports Network. Ryan Wilkes with you all night long, taking you through some sack volleyball action between the UVA Wines Cavaliers and the Carson-Newman Eagles. So getting ready to go. It'll be Abigail Curtis back to serve for the Cavaliers. As Curtis retreats, and we're ready to go. 0-0 on the board. Fresh set for both sides. Carson-Newman looking for the sweep tonight. As Curtis serves right into the net, point Carson-Newman. 8th service error for the Cavaliers. 1-0 Carson-Newman with the early lead as Betis set to check in for Taylor Kieran. As it'll be Betis to serve. Here's a serve from Betis. And this one down off the hands of Livingston. Point Carson-Newman, a service ace for Cameron Betis. We've seen it a couple times this season where Carson-Newman fighting within the first couple sets and then pulls away in the third. Good start here in the third set, 2-0, Eagles out in front. Betis back to serve once again. As it's Gutierrez, now the dump by Blankenship. Far side for Weaver. She's blocked by Scarce and Peterson. Point Cavaliers. It'll be Peterson back to serve now. Peterson had a hot start with the kills, but she's cooled off a little bit in that department. Does have 3 on the night, but now gets her 4th block. As Peterson with the serve. Back row for Hafey. Cherry sets up far side Weaver. Big swing off the hands of Gutierrez and down. Point Carson-Newman. 3-1 the score. Eagles out in front. As Wheeler back to serve for Carson-Newman. Gutierrez sets up right down the middle for Scarce. And a violation called on Carson-Newman. Point Cavaliers. It'll be Sudduth checking in as well as Brandon. Gutierrez and Blankenship check out. Sudduth will go back to serve. 3-2, Eagles out in front. Very early here in this third set. Short serve by Sudduth. Received by McCombs. Now far side for Weaver and a block by Montez and Scarce. Carson-Newman trying to go right at these UVA-wise middle blockers, but have not had much success tonight as it's now 6.5 blocks for UVA-wise on the night. We're all tied up at 3. Combs receives a Sudduth serve back row. Now another block, but this one goes out of bounds off the hands of Montez and Brandon. Point Carson-Newman. Adams checks in as well as Hall. Hafey and Weaver check out. It's good to see Taylor Adams back in action. Didn't see her at all in that first set. Saw her a good bit in the second. Not really as much as she's been playing this season as Hall's serve goes over. Now far side Scarce pokes it over the hands of Cobb and Cherry. Now McCombs to Adams. And Adams pokes it past the back row. Point UVA wise. Blevins checks in for Curtis. As we're all tied up at 4 apiece. So 2 ties here in this third set already. 16 ties overall so far tonight. As here's a serve from Scarce. Cherry bumps it towards Adams. Adams' big swing. Scarce with the dig on the back row. Now back towards Scarce. A great dig by McCombs. Kept alive right over the scorer's table. Taylor Adams keeps it alive, but McKenna Hall puts it into the net. Point UVA wise. Great effort by Adams. Right over the top of Adam Cavalier sitting down there doing PA. As a score now 5-4. UVA wise out in front. Scarce with the serve. McCombs back row receives it. Now towards Cobb, who just rolls it over. Now far side for Blevins. Cherry sets up near side. Adams pokes it over the top and kept alive and finds the back line. What a play by the Cavaliers on the dig by Sudeth. That was rolled over. Didn't hear who the kill. I think it was Blevins that got that kill. And UVA Wise takes a 6-4 lead on a 3-0 scoring run. Served by Scarce. Cherry sets it towards Adams. Big swing. Livingston with a nice dig. Now Blevins far side. Tipped around by the Eagles and down. A kill for Blevins, her second consecutive kill. It's now 7-4 UVA Wise. Ashley Tiernan gets up and gives her team some words of encouragement as the Cavaliers on a 4-0 run. Here's Scarce with the next serve. Cherry sets up Cobb right in front and puts it down. Kill for Emma Grace Cobb. Here comes Taylor Kieran and Cameron Bates back in. Kieran comes in for Bates. As it'll be McCombs to serve, 7-5. UVA Wise still out in front, but that ends a 4-0 scoring run for the Cavaliers. And the kill by Cobb. 9 kills now tonight for Emma Grace Cobb. Seventh sets up right in front. Brandon, nice dig by McCombs on the back row. Now Adams towards Cherry, big swing. Tipped around by Livingston. Sudeth will have to roll over the free ball. Now Cherry sets up Adams. Big swing off the hands of Livingston. Back near the basketball goal. Tips over the shot clock. And now Scarce able to get the free ball over. Cherry tries for the dump. Kept alive by Carson-Newman. Now Cherry to Adams. Adams is blocked at the net point. UVA Wise. What an effort you're seeing by the Cavaliers out there tonight. An awkward ball over top of the shot clock. Tipped around and Scarce was able to get it over. And then the block at the net by Peterson, I believe, and Brandon. That gets UVA Wise another point. 8-5 the score. There's Livingston to serve. Cherry with the dump. The dig by Sudeth. Now Scarce. Cherry sets up Kieran. Big swinging down off the hands of Scarce. Point Carson-Newman. Taylor Kieran had no intentions of letting that point go any further, and she gets the kill. 8-6 your score. Wise out in front by 2. Here's a serve by Blair Cherry. Sudeth sets up Peterson as Livingston keeps it alive. Now far side, Blevins, big swing and finds the back line. Out of bounds. Point Carson-Newman. The UVA Wise girls out there are just in awe at that call nonetheless. 8-7 now. Carson-Newman back within 1. Looked like that one might have missed the back line by just a hair. As Cherry with the serve, and this one goes out of bounds past the back line. Point UVA Wise. Substitutes coming in for the Cavaliers as Gutierrez and Blankenship back in for Brandon and Sudeth. Gutierrez will go back to serve. 9-7. Wise out in front. Here's a serve from Gutierrez. Cherry sets up Wheeler. Big swing off the hands of Peterson and Blankenship and down. Point Carson-Newman. That time, Julia Wheeler goes right at them and overpowers the Cavaliers' middle blockers. Trinity Hayfie checks back in, as well as Skylar Weaver. Carson-Newman back within 1. It's 9-8. Here's a serve from Trinity Hayfie. Received by Scarce. Gutierrez, far side set for Blevins. Cherry to McCombs. Now McCombs for Weaver. She's blocked, but Kieran keeps it alive. Cherry sets up Wheeler. Big swing. She's blocked, and it's down. The block for Peterson and Blankenship. – 10-8 Wise as Curtis checks back in for Blevins. Curtis will serve for the Cavaliers, leading by 2. 10-8 here in the third set. UVA Wise playing just how you'd expect them to. Trailing 2-0. Looking to push this one to 4 sets. Carson-Newman looking for the sweep. They did so last time at home against Newberry, a pretty convincing 3-0 sweep over the Newberry Wolves. As here's a serve from Curtis. Cherry sets up Wheeler. Big swing past the back row. Extended hands of Cameron Livingston. Point Carson-Newman. Cobb and Batis check back in. McCombs and Kieran check out. Here's Cameron Batis back to serve. 10-9. Carson-Newman still trails. Here's a serve from Batis. Back row for Curtis. Gutierrez keeps it alive. Now rolled over by Blankenship. Cherry sets up Weaver. She's blocked but kept alive by Carson-Newman. Now it's Wheeler. Pokes it over the outstretched arms of Peterson and Blankenship. Now Gutierrez with the dump. Nice dig by Hayfeet. Wheeler, big swing, puts it down past Livingston once again. Back-to-back kills for Julia Wheeler. We're all tied up at 10. Back and forth we go in this match. It's been nothing but competitive all night long between these two teams. Carson-Newman just able to scrape by Wise in both sets so far. But UVA Wise showing a lot of fight tonight. As Livingston receives a Batis serve. Now far side for Scarce. It goes out of bounds. Point Carson-Newman. Scarce just missed that far sideline. As Batis will serve again, Carson-Newman now leads for the first time in what seems like a while, 11-10. Here's a serve from Cameron Batis once again. Gutierrez sets up Peterson. She's blocked and tipped around by Wise. Now Peterson tries to go back round. It's tipped by Carson-Newman. Point Cavaliers. Serena Peterson gets the kill, her fourth on the night. And she'll go back to serve. Montes checks back in. Here's a serve from Peterson. 11-all here at Holt Fieldhouse in the third set. Big swing from Cobb. It's 11-all, no more. Carson-Newman retakes a 1-point lead on the 10th kill of the night. 11th kill for Emma Grace Cobb. 12-11 the score. Carson-Newman back out in front. Here's a serve from Julia Wheeler. Gutierrez sets up near side Blankenship. Nice dig by McCombs on the back row. Now Wheeler off the hands of Curtis and down. Kill for Julia Wheeler, who's really starting to get hot in this third set. Her 9th kill of the night. 13-11 Carson-Newman. As Wheeler will serve. Scarce right near the net. It's Cherry who runs into the net. Point UVA Wise. Just waiting for that call. It looked like Cherry was a little bit too far up on the net, and she was. Sudduth and Brandon check back in. Blankenship and Gutierrez check out. Sudduth will go back to serve. Carson-Newman still out in front by 1, 13-12. Here's a serve from Sudduth. Short one as McCombs comes up to receive. Cherry sets up Cobb. Big swing and down. Point Carson-Newman. Great job by the trio of McCombs, Cherry, and Cobb. As McCombs came all the way up to get that short serve, Cherry gets down on the knee to set up Cobb. And Cobb does the rest. 14-12 Eagles. As McKenna Hall will serve. Sudduth sets up far side. Scarce, who puts it down and scores on the far sideline. Point UVA Wise. Scarce will go back to serve. Right, Julia Wheeler nearing a double-double. 9 kills and 11 digs. She's really caught some fire here in this third set. As Cherry sets up Adams, who recently checked back in. Tipped around by Montes and down. Point Carson-Newman. Here comes Batis. Here comes Kieran, excuse me. Cobb checks out. McCombs back to serve, 15-13 Eagles. As Carson-Newman playing from behind most of this third set so far, but now back out in front by 2. Here's a serve from Bennett McCombs. Sudduth sets up far side Blevins. McCombs with a nice dig goes over. Sudduth tips it around. Now Montes blocked at the net, kept alive. And Cherry will reset for Kieran. Sudduth sets up back row for Scarce. A dig by Wheeler. Cherry sets up Adams. Big swing off the hands of the middle blockers and down. Point Carson-Newman. Timeout UVA Wides. Carson-Newman leads 16-13 as the Eagles starting to try to pull away here in this third set on the Eagle Sports Network. Back at Holt Fieldhouse, Carson-Newman out in front, 16-13 in set number 3 here on the Eagle Sports Network. Ryan Wilkes with you all night long, taking you through what's been a very exciting volleyball match tonight between the Eagles and the UVA Wise Cavaliers. We're really seeing some vast improvement here in year 2 with Alyssa Hanley. I mentioned last year 6 wins was the most since 2016, and already eclipsing that total is Alyssa Hanley and this UVA Wise team. At 9 wins on the year, Sutton sets up middle for Brandon, pushes it past the back line. Point Carson-Newman. Regardless of result tonight, and really the rest of the season, Hanley and the rest of the UVA Wise crew have to be proud of how far they've came here in 2 seasons under Hanley. 9 wins already this season as McCombs will serve. Sutton sets up for Montes, tipped around, kept alive by Wheeler, and now Carson-Newman able to get it over. Sutton sets up, big swing by Blevins off the hands of McCombs and down, point UVA Wise. Here comes Peterson back in for Montes. So Livingston will serve for the Cavaliers. 17-14 the score, Carson-Newman out in front by 3. Here's a serve from Livingston. Cherry towards Adams. Adams big swinging down, point Carson-Newman. Taylor Adams with the kill. In limited action tonight, Taylor Adams still with 8 kills and 15 attacks. That's Carson-Newman now out in front by 4. Here's a serve from Blair Cherry. As Sutton sets up for Blevins. She's blocked, tipped around by Livingston and kept alive. Now to Scarce. Cherry to Kieran. Big swing off the hands of Livingston and down. Point Carson-Newman. One timeout in the back pocket of Alyssa Hanley. She's used her timeouts well tonight, as UVA Wise after each timeout has came out with authority and gotten back into sets. As Cherry with the serve. Set up for Brandon, tipped around to the net. Wheeler keeps it alive. Now Cherry with the set goes over the net off the hands of McCombs by the swing of Blevins and down, point UVA Wise. There's an awkward set from Cherry, and Blevins gets the kill as Blankenship checks back in, as well as Gutierrez. Gutierrez will serve for UVA Wise, trailing by 4, 19-15. As the Eagles looking to close this one out in 3 sets. Cherry sets up for Wheeler. Big swinging down on the far sideline. Point Carson-Newman. Julia Wheeler now a double-double on the night. 10 kills, 14 digs as McKenna Hall checks out, as well as Taylor Adams, Hafey, and Weaver back in. Timeout UVA Wise, as I mentioned. Alyssa Hanley had one in her back pocket. Good time to call it. Carson-Newman leads 20-15 on the other side here on the Eagle Sports Network. Back at Holt Fieldhouse, Carson-Newman 5 points away from a sweep here at home, leading 20-15 in set number 3. After the timeout by Alyssa Hanley, UVA Wise looks to regroup and do so quickly. Trailing by 5, not much time left for error, as Carson-Newman looks for the sweep here at Holt Fieldhouse tonight in front of what's turned out to be a decent crowd here tonight. As here's a serve from Trinity Hafey. Gutierrez sets up Peterson, big swing, nice dig on the back row by McCombs. Now Cherry sets up Wheeler, pokes it over, Peterson and Blankenship, and it goes down. Julia Wheeler, who's really been going right at these middle blockers tonight, decides that time to sky it over top of them, and it goes down. 21-15, Carson-Newman. Here's Hafey again with the serve. Carson-Newman now out in front, 21-15. Back row for Scares. Blevins towards Gutierrez, who will have to roll it over. Now Cherry towards the net for Wheeler. Big swing off the hands of Peterson. Kept alive. Now Blankenship, big swing. Great dig by Hafey. Now Wheeler. Livingston, far side Blevins. Big swing. She's blocked and it's down. Point Carson-Newman. The block for Kieran and Weaver, and Carson-Newman within 3 points of a sweep tonight. 22-15 your score. Here's Hafey to serve again. Gutierrez sets up Blevins far side. Dig by McCombs. Cherry sets up Wheeler. She'll put it down off the hands of Peterson and Blankenship. Point Carson-Newman. Julia Wheeler catching fire here in set number 3 that time. Goes right at Peterson and Blankenship. And Carson-Newman now on a 4-0 scoring run, 2 points away from closing this one out. Hafey will serve. This one goes right past the back line, just barely. A service error for Trinity Hafey, and UVA Wise gets the serve back. Curtis checks in. Gutierrez, Blevins checks out. As Curtis will serve for the Cavaliers. Here's a serve. Now McCombs towards Weaver. Off the hands of Curtis near the far side bleachers, and it's down. Kill for Skylar Weaver. Point Carson-Newman. And match point upcoming for the Eagles. McCombs checks out. Cobb back in. As it'll be Taylor Kieran to serve with a chance to close this one out. Here's a serve. Off the hands of Curtis. Tipped around by Gutierrez. Gets over by Scarce. Now Hafey sets up Wheeler. Big swing. Finds the back corner and down. Point Carson-Newman. Julia Wheeler's 13th kill of the night is a decisive one. Carson-Newman wins set 3, 25-16, and closes this one out in sweeping fashion. A 3-0 sweep for Carson-Newman over UVA Wise tonight. What a match between these two teams. Carson-Newman sweeps, but a great fight by UVA Wise. 25-23, Carson-Newman takes set number 1, 25-20 in set 2, and 25-16 in the third set. Saying goodnight here from Holt Fieldhouse, Ryan Wilkes with you all night long here on the Eagle Sports Network.